Hello, and welcome back for another episode of the Portly Paladin, your friendly neighborhood weight loss internet YouTube program. I'm here again for another weekly update. I did my measurements this week. Apologize for the lateness. I know that it's Wednesday, and I generally try to do these on Mondays, but had a bit of a weekend. I first started out with a pretty bad ear infection, which I'm still kind of dealing with. And then I had the clutch go out of my car, and a few other things I dealt with over the weekend, including some computer issues. So, yeah, I've been a little bit busy with that, so that's why I haven't been able to get a chance to do this. But I'm back now, and I'm ready to give you my update. So, good news first. I did go ahead and lose another 8.5 inches this past week, so I'm pretty excited about that. Once again, I will put the actual measurements up on the blog, but until we get there, just kind of give you an idea of where I'm at. When I started this whole thing, my waist measurement was 74 inches, and I'm now down to 70 inches. So I've lost a total of 4 inches in my waist, which I'm pretty excited about. My chest started out at 73, and I'm now down to 67 and a half. So I'm very excited about that. Most of my weight at first, my measurements and things were in the leg area. Like, for example, my right thigh started out measuring at 38 inches, is now down to 33. Left thigh, again, started at 38, now down to 35. Calves were around 28 inches on both sides. Now I've got 24 and 28 on those. So, again, those have somewhat gone down. I've noticed it with my legs, especially my calves, because of water retention. They tend to fluctuate a lot and cycle up and down. So some weeks I think my measurements won't quite reflect what it really is because my legs are so crazy. But in general, that's where it's at. So now that my updates are over with, and you know that I'm back down again this week, I want to talk a little bit about eating healthier. Uh, if you're anything like me, and you probably are if you're watching this, you probably think that healthy food is bland food, not so tasty, not good, not delicious, not something you'd want to eat. But something that I've come to realize in the last bit of doing this is it's really not that bad. For example, instead of white bread, we've been eating wheat bread. In general, it's mostly pretty much the same points as a comparable slice of white bread. It's just that the wheat bread has a bit of a different taste, a little bit of a different texture, and it's better for us in the long run, even though it's the same points on the plan. But just going a little bit further from that, we have right now something that I'm looking at where trying to eat lower point lunches. So I've been eating a lot of baked potatoes for lunch because those are pretty low points. Just 1 point for each 100 grams of potato that you actually have. But the way it used to be, I couldn't eat a baked potato without eating like sour cream and bacon and cheese and butter and everything on it. But now it's like I can't do that because that's just a ton of points. And on top of that, it just feels like almost like wasted points. I want to do something else to make that potato still taste decent, but not suck up all those points. The goal is to get lower points for lunch so that I can eat a nice dinner that maybe a little bit more points that feels a little bit more satisfying. But in terms of potatoes, something that my wife's been doing is actually putting on salsa on top of the potato. She likes that a lot, gives it a lot of flavor, and makes her able to eat the potato a lot better without having to have all the cheese and everything else on it. Now I tried that. I'm not a big fan. I'm not sure why. It just doesn't really do anything for me to have that uh, salsa that way on a potato. But what I do like is I like to sort of almost treat the potato as if it's meat. Um, I have, whoops, sorry about that. Cat came to visit. I've been using, like, say, A1 sauce on my potato. A little bit of salt and pepper. Put a little A1 sauce on the plate, and there he goes. Yep, that was my cat. A little bit of A1 sauce on the plate, and dip the potato in that, and it's pretty tasty. So you could try the same thing with like maybe a barbecue sauce or a dressing. I keep be careful with the dressings because they can get pretty high in points. But I have noticed that fat-free dressings or reduced-calorie dressings, they can be a lot lower in points than your standard dressings. One of the best ones out there I found is Kraft Free. It's a good brand. It's like a fat-free Kraft dressing. It's the same standard flavor as the regular dressing, only it's a fat-free version. My favorite dressing is their Catalina dressing. It's kind of a tomato-based sort of French-type dressing. It's a little sweet, but also a little bit tangy. The regular version is about 3 points per tablespoon. But they have the Kraft-free version, which drops it all the way down to 1 point per tablespoon. So you can put a little bit of that on the potato if you want to do that. You know, maybe ranch if that's your thing, Italian, you know, whatever you want to do. Just think about it. You've got a lot of different options out there in terms of sauces that you can add to things to make things more flavorful without adding too many points. Along the same lines, you've also got seasonings that you can add. My favorite thing is to do like liquid smoke or Worcestershire sauce, lemon juice, vinegars, things like that. Like going back to the potato example, the most recent time I had a baked potato, I mixed A1 sauce with Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of liquid smoke, kind of mixed that together in a little bowl, and used that again to dip my potato in, and it tasted very almost meaty, had a lot of umami characteristics to it, with all of that added to it. So it's really pretty good and really added a lot of depth and flavor to that potato. There's also things like, you know, hot sauces. If you want just to be spicy, you can go with something like Tabasco. If you want real flavor, you can go with one of my favorites, Frank's Red Hot. There's also an option. There's like a Frank's Red Hot buffalo sauce that's really good. It's not quite as spicy because it has a little bit of other things in it. But be careful if you do that, because it is more points than the standard Red Hot, because it does have like a, you know, a butter fatty sort of element to it. You can always make your own if you want to with like a margarine that you found that's lower points. You can also kind of spice that up even. I like garlic a lot in things that I eat. So one of my favorite things to do is to take a sauce like that, especially Frank's Red Hot, and add some garlic to it, either chopped garlic, minced garlic, even garlic powder, and get it really garlicky and use that to dip something into, like, you know, some chicken or something like that. So it kind of brings that sort of hot wing sort of feel to what you're eating. So that's something you can do as well. And going back to spices, when I was talking about spices before, spices are a great thing to use for when you're trying to get something with some flavor into whatever it is you're cooking. Because spices, by and large, are 0 points. And they can really add a lot of flavor to what you're cooking without adding any points. For example, I have here what I call my all-purpose seasoning. This recipe I'll put up on the blog. But basically, it's just onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, paprika, cayenne pepper, and you just sort of mix it all together. Put it into like a little shaker, and I put it on just about everything. Now this, like I said, it has cayenne pepper in it, but does not have a lot. You can always add more. This recipe isn't based on tablespoons; it's based on parts, so it scales to, you know, however much you want to make of the seasoning. You can just mix it up like in a bowl and pour it into a shaker and put it on just about anything you want. You can add a couple of extra things to it to change it up. I like to add poultry seasoning to this and use it on pork or chicken. I like to add like a mustard powder, like a ground mustard powder to it. Sometimes that gives like a little bit of a different taste. But you can pretty much use it on anything. You can use it on potatoes. You can use it on meat. I pretty much use this sort of spice mixture on every single piece of meat I cook, whether I cook it in the grill, saute it, whatever I do with it, I pretty much put this on everything. So it gives it a lot of flavor. If you don't want to bother doing something like this, something I would recommend is Mrs. Dash. Mrs. Dash has a ton of different flavors out there, a lot of different varieties. They have like a spicy one, they have Italian, they have standard, they have all kinds of different flavors. And there's no salt in those, so you don't have to worry about increasing your sodium. You can use that on anything you want to cook, sprinkle it into any little dish you make, and it's going to add some flavor. And going back again to the vinegars and the hot sauces and that sort of thing, you can add that to anything, especially things like casseroles or soups or stews. Uh, Add a little bit of that to it to give it a little bit of extra flavor. Uh, Again, liquid smoke would be good for that too, because liquid smoke can add a little smokiness to just about anything that you're making. And don't be afraid of adding some things that maybe you didn't think of. Um, like, for example, one of my favorite things that I use a lot anymore is canned tomatoes. I will use like a can of diced tomatoes, a can of tomato puree, whatever, a lot of tomato ingredients to add into something that I'm cooking to add a lot of flavor to it without adding any points, because tomatoes, for the most part, are 0 points. So kind of just look at your cabinets, look at your spice cabinet, look at your pantry, and sort of see what you can use, what you have available, what you have to hand that you can put into these sorts of things, because they will add a lot to what you're eating. Now, just to kind of move on here and go into the recipes for this week, the spice recipe, the seasoning, that'll be on there. I do have an herbed chicken and potato recipe here. It's a little bit higher in points than most of what I've been putting up. It makes 2 servings, and it's a 9-point per serving recipe, because it does have a few things in it that are kind of high in points. Like, it does have a decent amount of potatoes, does have some olive oil in it, and some chicken breasts as well. So that's a little bit higher, but it's okay, because you're going to start watching your points on lunch, right? So then you're going to have some more points for dinner. And then here's another one that's a Asian sort of flavor idea. It's a little chicken bake that's got some rice in it, and and some nice flavors. And again, that's a little bit higher. It's about 11 points per serving. It makes 2 servings. So that's going to be up on the blog. And then the next thing I want to get into is talking about managing yourself in terms of snacks. I've talked before about the 0 and 1 point serving items for snacks. You really need to plan ahead. Think about what you're going to be making for dinner. Maybe making one of these. Maybe you're making one of the recipes I've posted before. So you know what you're going to be eating for dinner. So you've got that under control. Pack your lunch. I don't do that because I'm home most of the day because I'm not working right now, but my wife, on the other hand, she does work, so she packs her lunch every night, and when she's packing it, she records all of her points. So she knows exactly what she's going to be eating for lunch in terms of points. She does the same thing with her breakfast that she packs. She gets all this recorded down, so she knows exactly how many points are in each of the major meals of the day, so she knows how many points she has left over. She likes to, as I mentioned before, eat the frozen whipped cream as ice cream. She likes ice cream a lot, so she kind of accounts for that every night. Even though that's 0 points, she makes a note of it that she's going to be eating that as a dessert. And then once that's all done, she knows how many points she has as wiggle room. In this house, we're big fans of iced tea. We both like to drink iced tea a lot, so she will, knows that she has X amount of points to drink some iced tea when she gets home from work. I myself do the same thing because I like to have a beer now and then. A beer is about 3 points, so I want to account for that in my extra points. But kind of think about, as you're going through your day, where you think you might want to spend your points so you don't waste them earlier in the day on something that you probably don't need. So don't go and grab a bag of chips out of the vending machine if you're not really that hungry, when you think when you get home you might want to have a beer or a glass of iced tea, or maybe even a soda if you drink soda. Just kind of plan for it. Think about what you're doing so you don't get out of hand with that. But that's all I have for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to my videos, to my channel. Don't forget to tell people about it. Don't forget to spread the word. And also, as always, don't forget to go to theportlypaladin.wordpress.com and read the blog, because I do have posts up there that I do not post here on YouTube, as well as text from these videos that do not actually go on into the video to save time. So make sure to go. Hope to see you there. And until next time, don't forget to wage a war against your waistline. See you next time.